Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today. And we're going to be doing a reaction to Mike Martz's film session on Dak Prescott's interception, all 17 of them. We're going to just listen in what he has to say and just maybe fill in some commentary of how I felt about it, and ultimately, is there something that I agree with, disagree with, and we'll go from there. Before we get started, if you guys can like the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the notification bell as well. The reason I mention that every go-around is over 78.8% of you guys watching are not subscribed, and on top of that, a lot of you are returning viewers. So if you like what you're seeing and you're enjoying it, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Another thing is that I'm going to be going on vacation next week. So this will be my final video as standalone content. And then next week, you're going to get a film, not a film session, a mock draft Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as I'm gone. And they will all be scenarios for the Cowboys specifically. Like, this is what happens if they go down this route, and this route. And I hope you guys enjoy that as well while I'm gone. And then when I come back, we'll just see if anything happened. And we'll catch up with Cowboys news and I doubt anything's going to happen. So with that being said, we're going to dive straight into this video. And we'll just see what Mike Martz has to say on Mr. Dak Prescott. So let's get into it.
So Dak Prescott over the last season, 22, led the league with interceptions. And, I know Dak. I've been down to camp to see him several years ago, and I'm a big fan of his, I guess. But went back and looked at those throws, and it's pretty interesting. I want to show you these, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But there's a lot of factors here that might surprise you. Some of these interceptions are just hard to understand.
As a heads up, I think we're going to be doing this in reverse order, it looks like. So we're going to be going from the 49ers game all the way to the Tampa Bay game in that particular order.
And
so we got
look at this in terms of the receivers. On this play,
interception of the 49ers.
You're going to get pressure off the slot, which means you got man-to-man on the outside. And so if you just hold it right there real quick, right there, stop it. And the slot receiver, the quarterback, Dak, is going to try and get him on a crossing route, but the inside defender popping out of there is going to pick him up. So he gets doubled in essence. He sees it, and he's going to try and go to an outside receiver, stop it right there on a comeback over to the left side. So, there's two ways of looking at this. And one of the things I think the easiest way is if you see you get pressured or blitzed, you throw the easiest route, which is one of the comebacks on the outside, and not waste time on the inside thing. But that's just a philosophy thing. So he's a little bit late throwing this on the outside. But these receivers on these routes, when you hit a comeback, you cannot slide out to the boundary. You're giving the quarterback up. That ball is thrown right now, and the corner breaks on it better than the receiver does. The receiver down here at the bottom, as you can see it, he comes back. But the receiver up at the top, for some reason, must not have thought he was getting the ball. He slides out and just kind of quits on the route. And, the result's a pick. You just can't do that to the quarterback. Now, he's a little bit late because you got...
I was about to say that. So one thing I will say is that I'm not pinning this fully on Dak Prescott, but one of the things that I noticed is that he does release the ball late as Gallup is coming back. But the thing that annoys me and what really results in the interception is Gallup standing there and letting the DB go right past him. I think there's no completion that happens here, to be honest with you. I think at best it's an incompletion, but the interception, if you kind of look at it, is a result of Gallup just sitting there and doing nothing. Again, Dak should have maybe thrown it a little bit earlier while he was in the comeback, but what kind of worries me is that even if Dak throws it a little bit earlier, I don't know if Gallup still does what he does. Like, I don't know. It's just, it seems like he thought the ball wasn't coming to him, or he didn't really give a shit. But that's where I stand.
Hung up on the inside. But even at that, if he comes back to the football, this may not be completed, but it's not going to be picked.
Right.
I don't know what's in the mind or what's going on with that receiver. That corner out-hustled the receiver to the ball. How does that happen? How does that work? So as a quarterback, obviously you got to bite your lip and go to the sideline, but I think I'd have some words for that wide receiver if I was coaching those guys. But This is clearly, in my mind, the ball's a little bit late, but that should have never been an interception
Okay.
here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so here's a
Second one
situation
for the
now if you
49ers.
freeze it right there. So we've got 3-on-2 to the slots here. It's kind of a bracket coverage. The outside corners are going to,
I'm gonna just pause it here because did talk about this. I thought that this was more on Dak for just having tunnel vision, but I just want to see what Martz has to say on this.
it's a little bit of a bracket on the outside guys. The safeties are going to pick up the slant, and the corners are going to sit on the out. So you got everything covered here. So you go to the inside guy, which is normal. And he on a getaway, and this is a juke route or a getaway or a pivot, whatever you want to call it. The hard thing about this play is if you know they have this coverage, this is not a play you want to have in there. So they must have got surprised by it. But from Dak's standpoint, you can't come back and stare at it because those two guys in the slot, those defenders, they're on a string to your eyes. And so he's going to bring this guy here on the left slot. He's going to bring him to the part here because he comes in and stares at that pivot route, right? You can see him sit on it right there. Ball bounces off, and they end up with a pick. So by play design, it's not good. Stop it right there. He's going to win on the route. He has to come back and look at the slant here to the left, even though he's not going to throw it. And those eyes will keep him from collapsing like he's doing. And Dak just comes back and stares that thing down. Now, maybe they tell him to do that. I don't know. But clearly, that's not what you want. And by the way, the receiver down here on the slant route, he just took off. He broke the slant off and took off up the field, which had he thrown the slant, that would have been a pick. So they're just kind of doing whatever they want, I think, sometimes at wide receiver, which is pretty hard to understand.
And I will say this is that kind of looking at it, as a second guess, this is the problem with the option routes, and this is why it complicates things. And I don't know if these were option because it looks like this was just the play, but then Hilton just does his own thing. If we're going under the assumption that Dak has to fit it in there, that's a bad play. Like, that should not be the thing. However, if I'm looking at it this way, I'd be like, well, you could have maybe waited, looked, and you would have seen Hilton at the back end of the end zone. Maybe that's where you would place the ball. But this is just one of those situations where it's like, dude, you did what you weren't supposed to do and threw it there. And I would still attribute this to Dak. Maybe I'm just being, I don't know if I'm being too harsh on that, but, I would say that I understand it's bad play design, but in the realm of the play and him giving it to, with what happened, that's on him. But let's see.
When you're coaching a quarterback in this play, the only thing he's got to hold that slot defender off with his eyes before he throws that pivot. Guy wins on the pivot, but he gets trapped, and Dak has to know that and see that. That's a tough play against that coverage.
Okay, so I mean, if he wants to attribute, I don't know, where he's going with it. I would still put that on Dak primarily because if we're looking at the play design, and I would say that if he doesn't force it in there and he, based off of that, if he looks up, he probably sees Hilton at the back end of the end zone. But that's just me. So.
This is just a bad throw
Yeah.
by Dak.
I'm not going to say much.
He's got Cloud over there.
This is a terrible
based
throw.
on the safety's alignment, but he just underthrows this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most go back just a little bit, and you can see where he's looking right away when he gets the ball. Look at his feet. See how he's looking right at the safety there? He's looking right at him, and he's got to know that he's got a high safety, half-field safety. But sometimes you can still throw these outs if the guy's got leverage. But when he throws it, he grossly underthrows it. If he keeps it outside, maybe it gets completed. But he underthrows this thing, and it's going to be disastrous. This is really an errant throw. It's just not a throw you should make into cover 2 or a cloud corner, but maybe they want him to do that. I don't know.
Okay. All right, first.
He does a good job here coming off and seeing the coverage and throwing the ball in the seam. His eyes comes back. He tries to move the free safety a little bit, which he does do. He sticks it right on. The ball bounces right off the offensive player into the defender's hands. The defender travels with him, so he knows he's got man-to-man. Now, this is what you call a 79 flat to the bottom down here. You got a 9 route and a 7 route in the slot, and then the out route. When you throw these things, per Bill Walsh, you always want to come out throwing the flat first.
Mm-hmm.
You always look at the flat first, and if there's a cushion, you take it. Don't get greedy. It's first down throw. and he gets stuck on this 7 route, which he breaks it off because the guy kind of collisions him a little bit. And then this is why you have to have more separation. And this is why you come out throwing the flat first. This is a bad read. Or maybe this is what they've asked him to do. Just lock onto a guy and throw the ball. I don't know. But this is poor, very poor. The ball should be in the flat immediately.
I agree with that. I think that he got like focused on where Schultz is going and going off of what I see here. And I would say the same thing. Like, that's a poor read. You should check it off in the flat. I don't know what's going on in the coaching meetings, like you're saying, and I'm not trying to deflect blame away from Dak Prescott. But if I'm being honest with you, if you're teaching him to make that throw, that's poor coaching. But if this is Dak Prescott doing this on his own accord, that's a problem. So I think that he should have gone in the flat to Zeke. And, you know, regardless if it's no yardage or not, it's better than an interception. But, yeah, so far 3 on Dak Prescott.
There's too much of a cushion on the flat line. The first thing about bootlegs,
all right, this is already on Dak.
The first
so
thing
number 4.
You got to beat the edge first. He's thrown this too soon here. The defender on the edge is lined up between he and the receiver. If he takes 2 more steps, he's good. This is just on Dak.
Yep. Agreed.
You can't do that.
He should have taken. Yep.
He's trying to lay it over the guy. If he just goes a little bit further, he gets a little more of an edge. This is just very poor on Dak's part. When you're backed up, you don't want to make a bad play worse, and he did. You want to take that ball right there and get what you can get. You know, it's second long, try and get another 6 yards back, but throwing the ball in the move back inside like this, the ball takes off on him, and it's a disaster. This is
right, and I will say this. I'm going to pin this one on Dak primarily due to the fact that while he was getting hit as he was throwing it, he should not have thrown the ball. Because him throwing the ball results in this interception, and it's just a poor decision there. And I know what he's going to talk about on I'm pretty sure I know what he's going to talk about more specifically on the second interception in overtime, which I'm not going to put on Dak unless he has something otherwise to say. But yeah, so we're at 5.
Just very poor on Dak's part. So they have a little rub route going on here. They got a little cop and robber coverage. Safety comes down. He's going to chase him down. That comes off the slot out here. 85 now, as he comes off the rub route here, he's going to veer up the field just a little bit, which makes the ball low and come off his knee. Right there, you can see him leaning away from the throw there. And he's getting excited about it. He thinks he's going to take off and score a touchdown. You got to get the ball first. So by doing that, the ball's going to fall down around his knees. If he just stayed on line there, he caught the ball. But he didn't. Ball bounces off of him. And
I never even thought about that, like him catching and running and scoring, because the way I look at it is that if he stays level, catches that ball rather than trying to dive for the first down, he could probably catch it, lean for the first down, and get a little bit more yardage. But based off of what he's saying, he's probably thinking, okay, I have this little bit of room. If I can catch this, maybe I can squeeze through and get a touchdown. But yeah, this was poor on Noah Brown.
There's nothing wrong with the throw. It just, ends up being a disaster. So normally when you throw a slant to a receiver, you've got an out route there to challenge the flat defender. So you're throwing off a defender here. Here, the tight end runs a seam route. This has to be a mistake. If it's not a mistake, if that's their offense, this is really poor planning. And because you've got nothing to control this guy that's working to the slant there. And, if you have to, if the tight end goes to the flat, then you got a chance of throwing the ball into the flat. That guy's going to move with the tight end's route, and you got a window to throw that. So either this is just really poor play design or the tight end just ran the wrong route. You can't blame the quarterback on this.
Okay, yeah, because I always felt like the first one wasn't on
the bottom here. They're going to run a sticks route or a dodge route. When you get down here, you can't just sit and turn around and wait. You can't do this. You have to puncture the undercarriage here and come back to the ball. The ball's on the way right now, and he's standing there looking at it. You have to go back and attack the ball.
Okay.
And he doesn't, and it's a disaster. So the corner falls. Is a quarterback that corner is reading your eyes all the way. You have to feel that. He can kick the ball out to the swing here, but he's got enough width there. I just think he kind of misses a little bit, but nonetheless, this receiver, you cannot do that. You can't just sit there and
I know I did a film review on this situation of the stuff and kind of watching it again with a different perspective. I think I thought this was more on Dak's fault. But I could see what he's saying here. Like, Schultz should not be sitting there. It's like the Gallup thing. Like, you don't sit there and just let the ball go and let the DB attack it. So props to Mike Martz changing my mind on that one.
wait, you have to go back and attack the football. Guys are going to come underneath you and steal that all the time. One of the routes that you really like against press man are these deep outs. They're really cool, and they should give you a winner 100% of the time. So this receiver on top, he's got to read the release. He seemed it inside, which is good, but he's got no pressure from the corner. So he's got soft hands, what we call soft hands or soft corner. At that point, you know you can get him going. Now stick your foot in the ground and snap it underneath him right there. If you hit and come back underneath it, that corner's his momentum will carry him, and you'll come right back underneath him. But when his cut, he rolls 4 yards gradually up the field. You know, my wife can cover that route, to be honest with you. It's just a horrendous route. You can't bend.
Yeah, that
on a
was. I
seven
felt
on
like
tight
that
coverage.
was
You
on
got to be
Gallup,
really
if
sharp and
anything.
tight in the cut and snap it and come underneath that guy. The other option that we had always given our receivers, if you're even, you're leaving. So right there, if you're over the top of that guy, just take off and go. See the quarterback back there? He sees it. He'll see it. And you don't have to stick your hand up or anything. You practice that, of course. But in what we used to do, in that situation right there, we'd let him take it high. But we also have on teams that, depending on the personnel, we said, no, don't take it high. Stick your foot in the ground, come out of it. So there's two ways of doing that. But you ought to win either.
I mean, I agree. I think kind of looking at it this way, like, if this was an option route and Gallup had kept running, this probably would be a touchdown. Unless, Gilmore gets there, depending on how the ball's thrown, if that's the throw. But yeah, come on, Gallup.
No matter
what
you do with that, this is just a horrendous route. Ball's thrown on time. He just kind of bends it and runs right into the corner. It's just horrendous receiver play.
Right,
Dak is obviously throwing a comeback here at about 15, and there's the cornerback. Just, hey, what do you say? I mean, it's just, unless Dak is throwing the wrong route, which I doubt, and the receiver's release is not he's not running a comeback release. He's fading right out the ball, and he should be snapping it and coming back. They're not on the same page here, and when that happens, 100% of the time, you put it on the wide out. So Dak.
Okay, I think in my thing I said that was more on Dak because you can't be making that decision. But if that's what he's saying, I mean, I kind of look at it this way, and maybe I'm wrong here. I feel like it was a no-huddle situation, and you kind of threw it out there and communication error. But if you're going to put that on the receiver, okay. And I'll trust his judgment. I'm not afraid to be wrong on that. I think that if that's just a communication error and that's on the receiver, again, not attacking the ball, okay, that's fine. And I think the second one I said that this should have been defensive pass interference.
He does a nice job here with the throw. The receiver in the slide gets over the top, but he's close to that safety, so he's going to hold him up a little bit with the throw, which is good because that safety is going to blow him up. And he goes up to get the ball, and he should have this. The ball's right on his chest, so he bobbles it.
Okay.
This is just on the wideout completely. They have a bender in the middle here going on the hash mark. This is the second
Green Bay
interception. And whether this is basically Tampa 2 with a hole player, the linebacker there. You treat him like a free safety.
Which, by the way, I think
deep hole player, whether it's free
fault.
safety or a linebacker like this, they expect him to come across his face,
across the middle,
and he doesn't know. He doesn't choose either. You either go flat or you take it up the seam. You got to do one of the two. But instead, he just kind of runs into the defender like he's going to block him, and he throws a. I don't know what to. I don't know.
Yeah, like I don't.
I don't like the play, but I think the quarterback expects him to come around that backer and be flat, right?
Run that flat.
right there. The
Exactly.
flat,
That's
drop
what I'm
your
saying.
shoulder,
Like, bro,
come
like,
flat.
what are
There's
you
a nice
doing?
window there. And he's throwing it. He sees it. He's going to throw it. But the receiver,
Speaking of which, they did the exact same play in overtime, and it worked because Gallup ran the route out. So, yeah.
just, he's not even looking for the football. I don't know if he even thinks he's going to get it. He just hesitates. He doesn't know what to do. So he doesn't do anything, and they throw a pick. We got two receivers in the slot here. They're going to run the same route. They're going to switch release. One of them should be on a shallow route underneath it. And I would suspect it's the receiver here that just blew the last one. Right there, you got to snap it and come underneath it. And then the same thing here with 86, the tight end. First of all, he's breaking this thing too soon. He lets that safety just sit there. The safety didn't even back up a step. Yet, if he pushed two more steps and got across his face, that'd be great. But still, as it is, he stayed on his line there. You got to come flat. You got to do whatever you got to do to beat that safety that's sitting down there. Now go flat. If you have to run like it did, then whatever you do. But you can't just set a line and let that guy cross your face to the ball. He's not even looking for the football, by the way, when you go back and look at it.
Yeah, and I said that this one was more on deck out of the two, and it's just I always felt after kind of watching it again, and then now that I'm looking at it here again as I'm thinking about it, Schultz does run a very weird route here that allows that DB to pick it off. I believe this was a third down too, so I'm not a fan of the situation. But yeah, I agree with what.
Look at him. Watch his helmet.
Saying here.
Watch his helmet. He never looks for the football. Look at the line of his helmet. He's not even looking for the ball. And then the receiver took the path of least resistance and said, okay, well, I'll just follow him in there. That receiver right there should be on a shallow route. It's just horrendous football.
Okay.
I get so angry watching this. It just should never happen. This is what we'd call a wrap dig or wrap forward. You have a little sit route. It's going to grab the two.
And I think I said that this wasn't Dak's fault.
The receiver in the slot should bend it a little bit and come flat down the 40-yard line or the 45-yard, 43-yard line, whatever. Right at that point, he should be flat and catch it on the bottom hash mark down here somewhere. But he doesn't. He runs up the field, and this comes up time and time again. The safeties against these seam routes are supposed to convert to basically digs or stay seam routes, and they're all picks. He's not looking for the ball. He does.
Another thing too, I'm not sure if he's going to mention in a second. The thing that bothers me the most is Lamb hesitates, and then the defender comes. So I do agree with what Mart's is saying here, and I did feel like this was wishy-washy. And I think, I don't know if I did say this was on Dex. I could be wrong here. I think I did say, like, maybe, actually, now I remember. I'm sorry. The thing that bothers me is that Lamb just didn't think about what he wanted to do, and then the interception happens. And I kind of felt like if he had stopped and maybe made a decision, or he kept going. But I see what he's saying here, and I agree 110%. So I thank him for clarifying.
In there. He just kind of traveling around. Yeah, I don't. He's running right there. He's slowing down a little bit. Doesn't look for the ball. Doesn't set his course.
And now that I'm thinking about it, Dak's probably thinking he's going to come in the flat or back towards the middle of the field, and that happens.
He's got to play there if he'll just stay flat like the quarterback expects him. He should catch it on about the 42-yard line, just past the hash marks there. It's third down. You want to net the sticks, so you want to be about 4 yards past the sticks.
And then I believe this is the final one because this is the...
Sit it, work off that inside defender. So far, he's doing a great job with his route. Receiver from the bottom goes outside on his release. There's a nice window there. Quarterback's going to get pushed out of the pocket and be a little bit late, but that's okay.
And I said
that the receiver now should come right back between the two defenders and snatch the ball out of the air. But he just sits there and works sideways. Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, that's just, to me, that's just all. Right there. Now come back through split those defenders. We say puncture the under coverage. Come right between those two guys back towards the ball, and you got it. and he's throwing it as if he's going to do that. And of course, he doesn't do that. You have two different philosophies.
Okay, so that's the last of the interceptions. So I counted 5 interceptions that he said that were on Dak Prescott or lean towards that way. And I did say more were on him, actually more than what Martz was saying. And now that, you know, having a guy that has had more experience and looked at it, okay, that's fine. And you are the judge of your own opinion. If you feel like I'm wrong on that or Mike Martz is wrong on that, you're more than happy to do so. I'm just trying to learn and understand how these things should operate, try to be better of how I look at things. I'm going to just listen to what he has to say at his tail end to give him his props, and then we'll close out the video there.
You have a coordinator that wasn't hired by the head coach. And when that happens, when you're running an offense for a head coach that's really not your offense, then the details of it, you may not know or understand. So you just kind of put it in, and it's not as tight as it should be. And that these things are going to happen when that happens. You know, the details and the discipline of that offense just aren't going to get done because he doesn't know it, or you know, just doesn't have it. You know, you got Mike McCarthy in that passing game that he wants to run. He's been doing it forever. And so the answer to that is let Kellen move on and do his thing someplace. And Mike, you come back and you put the screws to it, get it the way you want it, get the receivers disciplined, be more specific with Dak and, you know, those kinds of things. Because whether it's Dak or whoever the quarterback is or the receivers, they all have to be on the same page. And everything in the passing game is about the discipline of what you do. Without that discipline, I don't care who you are, you're just not going to be successful with it. So I think they did the right thing. I think it's in a great situation right now. I think for Mike to come in and hammer it down to what he wants and how he wants it. And I know he's very discipline oriented, and he'll get what he wants out of this. And it should be exciting to see the transition for those receivers. So I think Dak, with these changes, you have to go back and look at Dak for the first years in the league and all the success he had with Kellen and whatnot. And it's not the system. It's just he's coaching and the details of what he believes in. And Dak didn't look like this. So you have to go back and look at Dak when he's playing good. And they say, well, he's always playing from behind and doing all that kind of, it doesn't make any difference. You're still throwing the ball in the NFL and completing it, you know. And the discipline and how he used his eyes is totally different than what I saw here in the last year or two. Different guy. And I think a lot of that has to do with what we just talked about. And I think, you know, run somebody else's offense, it's just not going to get done the way you want it to be done. The quarterback's not going to have the information he needs. So, yeah, I think you'll see a dramatic difference in terms of Dak's play, and because everything's going to change in terms of the discipline with the receivers. They'll understand things better, and, you know, it's just going to be a better situation.
I agree 110%. I think that the biggest thing is Dak Prescott needs a new ear, or a voice in his ear. Not a new ear. One of the biggest problems I've had is that I don't think Dak's being pushed enough, and I think this kind of leads to those discipline issues, and also that kind of reverberates onto your wide receivers and your entire offense. Like, this is stuff that needs to be fixed, and I'm hoping now that there's a direct line from the quarterback to the coach now, who's putting in his own system, that we see those results change. And I think that, you know, you can feel like Dak was responsible for all 17. I think he was responsible for just 5 based off of what Martz was saying. In fact, he convinced me of a couple ones that I thought were his fault initially, and then after kind of looking back at it, I'd be like, you know what? Makes a lot more sense there, coming from a guy that's won a Super Bowl, you know, has coached offense throughout his entire career and how long he's been with the NFL and what he's done. So props to Mike Martz and bringing that information, and if you want to go check it out yourself, by all means. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.